In the Emerald Isle, something unexplainable is happening. Tonight, prepare to witness the most frightening event in horror podcast history. A journey into the depths of horror history. First Class Horror presents the Class Horror Cast. Evil wears many masks, but pure horror wears only one. Support First Class Horror on Patreon for as little as $1. Can't get enough of the horror? Carve yourself a deal from official merchandise, only on Teespring. Join us on all social media at First Class Horror. We have such sights to show you.
Chris and Travis are the founders of Tremendum Pictures. With Travis's unique marketing and business background, combined with Chris's film and technical experience, this made the perfect mix to form Tremendum in 2011. Working out of their apartment, they spent an enormous amount of time creating content for TV, film and digital media. They independently co-wrote, directed and produced micro-budget horror film The Gallows. The movie gained the attention of horror titan Jason Blum of Blumhouse Pictures as producer, before being acquired by New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers. This became New Line's first acquisition in nearly 8 years. The Gallows, released in 2015, grossed over $42 million in the box office and spawned a sequel, The Gallows Act 2, which released in 2019 through Lionsgate. Chris, Travis and I discussed their rise to the top of the box office, advice for following your passion and geek out over horror in general. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. First question is, are you guys both horror movie fans, and how did you first get into film, or when did you first get a love for film?
I can jump in. This is Chris talking. I was a fan, and I still am a fan of a lot of the classic horror movies, some of the classic slashers like Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers, and I was a big fan of AMC Fear Fest, every year on Halloween. I would watch those, and that was around the time I was about 13 and going into high school soon, and I started getting into just horror in general, and it made me excited about making my own movies because I watched those movies and I thought, well, this isn't so hard. I just get someone, throw a mask on them, and create some scary stuff. And so my first besides weird skits and things and improv, my first real attempts at making movies were horror. I wrote and starred in and edited totally one-man show, kind of Robert Rodriguez style, these movies, and just showed them to my friends, and definitely grew a love and appreciation for the genre back then. But just even in high school, and still a fan today. Travis, do you want to speak to that too?
I've always loved movies. I mean, horror genre is, I think it's something we're good at. I think it's something that we know and can do well. But I don't think that's specifically the only genre we can do. I really think we can do. We haven't really had anything that's gone mainstream that we've done that's action, but we have little things that we've done that are very good action shorts and things like that we just have kept kind of to ourselves and are saving them for a large motion picture. Mm-hmm. And adventure movies. We like the idea of some of these films that are coming out and TV shows like Stranger Things that kind of heavily involve kids and just kind of an innocence and a fun nature to them, where they don't take themselves so seriously, but they can have really good dramatic moments. So we like all genres. Horror is a good one for us to jump into, and it was the one that helped us get into the industry, and we plan on continuing to do them.
Yeah, got a lot of fun ideas in the horror space still, but we are fans of all movies. We're fans of all kinds.
So we want to kind of do all kinds.
Yeah, is that something, because some of the questions I had gotten were, is that something that you guys would like to expand out to, outside of that that horror
Yeah,
realm.
definitely, absolutely. We like Travis was saying, horror has been something that has been good to us, and we have learned so much about just filmmaking in general and the business in general through horror, and we want to continue it. We have some of the projects we are most excited about are in the horror genre, horror, thriller, suspense. And some of our favorite filmmakers, make a ton of horror movies. M. Night Shyamalan is one of our faves. And so, we have a deep appreciation for the genre. I have a lot of good friends in the genre. But, yeah, we do want to
But that said, we're excited to jump into action, comedy, although comedies
fantasy
would be pretty hard. But I think – But action, comedy, drama, really adventure would be
sci-fi.
Really fun. Sci-fi, yeah. Sci-fi adventure would be really cool to do. But yeah, we want to do all kinds.
And do you guys have stuff in the pipeline? Or I know you probably can't talk about it, but that's something that you've actively been looking at?
We do. Actually, the movie, we've been fortunate enough that we shot a movie last summer, and it's in post now, or still kind of getting close to wrapping up post. And so after all the coronavirus stuff hit, we were fortunate enough to have stuff to do. We've been continuing in post on this film. But it is, I wouldn't classify it as a traditional horror, although there are horror elements. It's more of a suspense thriller, but with some sci-fi vibes to it. It's, I guess to us, it'd be a little bit Ex Machina, I guess is a good comparison. Ex Machina feels like a sci-fi, but there's also some, tense.
It's grounded and tense.
Yeah, some moments. So it's kind of like that a little bit. Not as CG heavy, but because it was a low budget. But we're working on that one right now, and that's a little bit of a blend of genres. It's called Held, Held. You can look it up on IMDb and check it out. We should be hearing more about it soon as we're getting close to wrapping that one up. But yeah, we have several other concepts too that are not all in one single genre.
Yeah, we have a horror comedy that we would like to do. We are actually going to produce, along with some social media guys. I don't know if you've heard of FND Films, FND Films on YouTube, but they've got a good following, and they're really funny guys, and they've had this great concept for something, and we want to help develop them and get them to kind of to a position where we are, where they can keep making movies, and we know that they do a good job, and we want to help. We'd like to see other filmmakers kind of do what we did, in that we'd like to help get them a chance to kind of break in like we got, and then just keep partnering with people that we enjoy working with on things.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool point you made there, because, even for you guys, it was probably much harder because there wasn't somebody maybe like you guys who were willing to do that. It was, big studios and stuff, and maybe it's not as easy to get the meetings and get the connections with those studios.
Right. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and we didn't know anyone.
Yeah, we were very foreign to it. And we weren't even living in LA. We still live in Fresno.
In Central California.
So we, didn't have a place to stay, had really no connections down there at all.
Chris actually attended the New York Film Academy based in LA, and he heard about Central California, Fresno specifically, where he could probably get a bunch of locations for free or really cheap for his thesis film for film school. And so he took his friend up on that offer and came up to Fresno from LA and got all kinds of great locations. And that's where we met. And I was just like, man, let's make some movies. Let's make some movies here. We can do it in Fresno, kind of off the grid and outside of the system, and we can get a lot done. And people are excited about it, and not everyone's jaded about it like some people will say it is in LA. So that's where from there we developed our first idea together, and we created the Gallows. And, as you may know, that came out in 2015 through a worldwide theatrical release from Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema. We partnered with Blumhouse on that after they discovered us and the movie, and Management 360 also helped co-produce after finding us. But it was an incredible journey to get to that point, and we certainly are grateful that we did get to that point. And it's a success we'd wish upon anyone who puts in the effort and dares to attempt such a thing.
Such a crazy thing.
Yeah, like how did you guys come up with the concept for that, or where did that initially come from?
So the Gallows, the reason it was the style it was, found footage and that kind of a movie, like a Paranormal Activity-esque movie, there was a couple of reasons behind that. One was we had started the whole process in 2011, 2012, when Paranormal Activity was very hot. It had just kind of struck, and I think it was the second one that was about to come out or something like that. And there was a lot of hype around the found footage genre, kind of resurging at that time. And we had no money, no resources. We barely had, training of any kind. And we thought, okay, so this is a genre we could probably do cheap, easy, minimal crew. We don't need a lot of experience.
And we don't need Julia Roberts or Hugh Jackman.
Don't need a star. We don't need anyone like that. So that was part of the reason why we chose the style we did. It was really out of kind of necessity and trying to kind of be, fitting into that trend that had been going on. But the concept was a kind of a hybrid of a couple things.
There's the truth that we didn't tell people.
Right, for a while.
For a long time. And then there's the story that we told to help elevate the filming and the whole backstory and the ether, the whole world of
the lore,
what we were doing.
The initial approach was very Blair Witch inspired. You know how the Blair Witch Project kind of conjured up this lore and made up this, that we had like a website and they had like all this story right behind this witch and made it feel very real, even to the actors and the people involved. And so we took a similar approach. I had a high school theater class, and I basically we told this story to our actors, to investors, everyone involved in the project about how this kid Charlie Grimmel died in this show back in the 80s called The Gallows, and it eventually changed to the 90s, but it used to be the 80s when we edited the story. But anyway, the story really happened. My dad saw it in high school.
He witnessed the death of this kid on stage.
Yeah, he witnessed the whole thing. And when we shot this promo trailer, that was how we presented it, was that it was a real event that really happened, and we had somehow captured this footage from the police station, to have as part of our film.
And we were going to build the movie around that.
Right. We specifically chose the hangman because we actually wanted the movie to be PG-13, and we had always planned on it being PG-13. Never thought it would be anything different. We chose the hangman so there would be no gore, no blood and guts. We wanted it to be supernatural and not very graphic. But we got an R rating anyway. Not really sure. We still don't know to this day.
There's like no language or like sex or drugs, or it's just like intensely scary is what they gave us.
That's all they could really tell us, which is
so kind of lame. I guess it's a compliment, but we did make it for high school kids to just knowing that it would scare the crud out of them.
For high school kids. So that was what, through the many years of making The Gallows, that was the origin of it all, was this story. But the actual origin of it was experience that Travis had that he relayed to me, and we actually built it around.
So my wife and I, when we were first married, we lived in Texas for just a year. She was attending school on a sports scholarship there, and I was just working. And on my spare time, I was in a play. And I was the only young married person in this play, and the rest were like high school kids. And several of their parents were on the board of directors of this playhouse. It's the Harbor Playhouse in Corpus Christi, Texas. And my wife and I heard that some of the kids were getting the keys so they could stay the night and do like a little camp out inside the theater one night. And, of course, we spoke to their parents and said, well, you got to get us a key because we will have a blast making little noises and creepy sounds all throughout the night to really scare these kids. And we did that. My wife and I showed up. We snuck in. We crept all around in different rooms, the wardrobe room, under the stage. And they were just huddled around on the stage trying to get through it all, but they were scared so bad. It was wonderful. And so I told Chris about this and how scary it could be to film something in a theater. Every theater has a ghost. Every high school has a spirit, all those types of things. And we really wanted to play on scaring these kids to death in this film. And so Chris really kind of ran with that idea. And then we came up with our script, or our super huge outline for The Gallows. And then we found our cast, and we got some seed money, some investment money to the tune of $100,000 from local friends and family. And we made our movie. And the statistic, I guess, that's kind of cool is that it's the least expensive movie ever to go straight to a worldwide theatrical release with over 63 countries and over 2,700 theaters in the U.S. So we were really excited about that. I mean, no festivals, no limited theatrical release, full-on worldwide theatrical release through Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema.
And the reason that was huge to us is because, like we said at the start of all this, we have nothing. We started with no context, no crew, very little experience. I mean, we were kind of just figuring it out as we went along, and
but we meant to. We always had purpose and meaning, and we were driven to do the hard work that it took.
But I mean, it was a $100,000 movie. It was a crazy low budget movie, and we were very great. We're still very grateful for the success that it had, and for the experience that we had with it, and the journey. That we learned a lot.
Yeah, like from what you mentioned earlier about the Blair Witch, it really did feel like a modern day Blair Witch, and I mean that as a compliment. Maybe even more so, because I mean, to be able to do something like that in 2012, 2015, it was probably even harder to do because of the internet and because of everything, to drum up that much. Just hearing you talk about that there, I actually believed a lot of the stuff that you've just said, that you guys kind of just, brought together as the story, and you were telling it as if your dad had told you. I genuinely believed all that was actually fact. Which is crazy. And like even back then when it came out, like even here, I live in a small town in the southeast of Ireland, and you couldn't turn around without seeing the Gallows or hearing about the Gallows, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Oh, it's insane. I mean, one of the most potent stories in the whole journey was our investors were just local people here in Fresno, local collections attorneys, actually, most of them.
One was a UPS driver.
Yeah, just regular folks. They'd never done anything with movies before, and they invested in us because they believed in our pitch and our little teaser trailer that we made. And
our vision.
And our vision for it to take it worldwide. And even though we had no idea how that was going to happen, we were driven to make it so. And we, had a business plan, and we remember sliding this business plan out to them and showing them this is what we're going to do to make our movie go around the world. And, flash forward to 3-4 years later, we're sitting in a similar conference room full of Warner Brothers and Blumhouse and New Line Cinema executives, and they're telling us how they're going to release our movie around the world. And Dan Fellman, who's no longer with Warner Brothers, but he was a longtime veteran there, slides across the table to us, to Travis and myself, this paper that has a list of all these countries around the world that our movie's going to be playing in. And we have this just like flashback to the moment we, started looking for money.
Like you could bookend those two moments together. Us sliding across our worldwide vision to the investors in a small legal office in Fresno, California, to receiving a list of 63 plus countries, including the Great Ireland, all the way back to us, and showing us that our vision had come to fruition.
Yeah, it was a very surreal moment. And then they started showing us, trailers and clips that they had cut together, which was another thing that we had envisioned. Like, we'd always envisioned, not that Charlie ever reached this status, he didn't, but we'd always envisioned the Hangman and Charlie becoming this, horror icon. We thought, like, oh, it'd be cool to have a trailer where they compare him to, like, the next Jason Voorhees, the next Michael Myers, the next
Freddy Krueger,
the next Freddy. And sure enough, they cut a TV spot that
exactly the way we had envisioned it.
Yeah, and we said nothing about it, but you can still find it. It's like a 30-second spot where it says Jason has his hockey mask, Freddy has his glove, Charlie has his noose, or whatever. It's a dope spot. And we were just like blown away by seeing that vision in our minds come to a reality. But honestly, that's what movie making is. That's all it is. It's just imagination and working until it becomes a reality.
Like, how was it for you guys, or how did you deal with, like, kind of that? I don't want to say, when I say overnight success, I know it's been a lifetime and a lifetime of work and consistency and grinding, but I just mean in the sense of that whirlwind where the movie gets picked up and you're in these boardrooms and you're in front of Jason Blum. Like, how was it dealing with that and the interviews and the pressure? And
it was pretty wild, man. I mean, I honestly think most of the time we were just trying to enjoy it and make the most of it, and there was continuing work along the way. Like, we had many rounds of reshoots, many rounds of re-edits and tinkering with the movie. Every time we gained a new partner in the process or a new, step was taken, we had to continue to tinker with the movie. So it was ongoing, that we were never resting on the film. But there were a lot of really cool moments that we were able to celebrate and just kind of bask in. I remember we got kind of toured around. It wasn't near as big as like a tentpole movie, a press tour. But we got a little press tour for the movie. We got to go to Chicago, Kansas City, L.A., San Diego, or something.
And it was just really, really cool. It was fun.
Oh, super fun. Us and the actors just out at screenings, and
they put us in expensive hotel rooms, or at least they seemed expensive.
They sure seemed.
Places we would never spend money on.
I think my very first time actually ordering room service at a hotel was on that trip. After having been alive for 25 plus years, I was like, but no, it was really cool, man. It was quite the experience. Again, like Travis said, we would wish it upon anyone, any filmmaker aspiring to make a film and have a success and get it out there and have it be seen. It was incredible. And we
would pinch ourselves every once in a while, just like, man, can you believe we're in the same room talking with like Roy Lee right now, who's a producer on like Lego Movie and a bunch of these big movies, or we're talking to Toby Emmerich, head of production at Warner Brothers, and Walter Hamada, who's in charge of the DC universe now. Like, this is cool stuff. And but we felt at home a little bit. Part of us was like, it's a little too big, too Hollywood, a little too much, and we like really the nimbleness of independent film, where we can go out and make something very quickly and not have to worry about everyone checking off their own special boxes. So there are some things that we think are not negatives necessarily, but they're just process holdups,
drawbacks
from working within the system. Like, there could be a movie that's great and it won't get made for 10 years or 15 years because not everyone is able to get their stuff together. But for us, if we like a movie and it works within our system, or kind of the Jason Blum 5 million or less or million or less system, we'll go shoot it and we'll pop out a movie 6 months later. And then everyone's going to be like, oh, sweet, where did that come from? It's like, well, we didn't have any of the red tape that a lot of these guys have when we do stuff independently, but still utilize our connections to get broader releases.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest, since the Gallows. That's really where we've continued to live and thrive, is still in the indie space. We're still making movies on the cheap and with, a frugal mindset. And that's really just where we've stayed and where we continue to thrive.
And we're helping people in that same kind of space. We did help produce another movie called Prey, which is on Amazon right now. It came out actually the same time as The Gallows Act 2. Last September and October, they both came out. Prey is a good one. We helped Blumhouse with that one. And then also coming out this week,
this Friday,
is a film called Behind You that was filmed in Utah. And a couple new filmmakers, and we saw that they were doing a good job, and they're up and coming and on their way to even bigger successes after this film. But they asked for our help in producing their film, and we said gladly. So we took that on, and we got XYZ Films to negotiate a deal with Vertical Entertainment for U.S. And North America rights, and then it's out to all kinds of other territories for release as well. So very exciting to be seeing other people that we're trying to help along have that kind of success as well. So it's very, very rewarding for us.
That's something you guys are going to look to do, obviously, going into the future. Be involved in other people's projects and kind of bring them to light and give them a platform.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we really like producing. It's fun. I mean, we've on the Gallows and Gallows 2, we're very used to doing literally everything, like from directing all the way to craft services
and editing and visual effects.
So being able to focus on just producing and just seeing someone else's vision come to life and just supporting them is also just it makes it more fun for us to on certain projects. Just to be able to focus on that and not have to, worry about overly scrutinizing every creative decision as we're used to, We've done that and we know how to do that, and it's been, we learned a lot from it. But yes, the process of producing is something we look forward to doing more.
Support First Class Horror on Patreon for as little as $1. Can't get enough of the horror? Carve yourself a deal from official merchandise, only on Teespring. Join us on all social media at First Class Horror. We have such sights to show you.
Okay, so after the whirlwind then of the first Gallows, kind of things started to die down. When was a sequel in discussion, or was that something that had been planned?
The sequel wasn't necessarily planned. I think it was our manager at the time who was saying, guys, you should do a sequel. And the first one didn't quite launch as big as we had hoped, even though, to be honest, it was great. We feel like the R rating instead of the PG-13 hurt a little bit of the box office in the U.S. The fact that found footage, a couple other movies had come out and kind of diminished people's expectations of found footage, so they weren't as excited about it.
It came out, nearly 3 years after that excitement of found footage was going on that we talked about. It because of all the reshoots and things we did, it delayed the process. And by the time it actually came out, it had been Paranormal Activity 4 or whatever had already happened, which was on the downside of those, So it's like the hype around it wasn't quite as much as we wanted.
Well, and so it didn't quite warrant an immediate hey guys, make a sequel from New Line or Warner Brothers.
It wasn't a sure thing.
But Jason of Blumhouse was excited about
supportive,
doing an off the grid sequel, just like the first one, and we were able to go out and do that. And Chris and I executed our vision in that one, and we actually didn't have anyone really show up on set. No one from Blumhouse ever actually came on set for the sequel. They one day on the first reshoots for the first one, but. They kind of just said, here's the money, go make the movie. And we were able to make a sequel, and that eventually got picked up by Lionsgate for worldwide rights, and that was released last October. Now, we filmed that in 2016, and we had it ready in 2017. And in fact, they had shook on the deal late 2017, and it just took forever for Lionsgate and Blumhouse to kind of get the business affairs stuff set up. So that's something that for us, we also learned a lot about streamlining our own processes so that we can be quicker than some of these bogged down big companies that have to go through all these things.
I think it's a trap a lot of indie filmmakers find themselves in, is that if you're so lucky to have your movie picked up by a studio or a big distributor, there's a lot of expectations. Technical expectations, legal expectations, paperwork, all
that you think that they'll handle.
Yeah, that you think that will be handled, or you don't even know about to begin with. And fulfilling all those expectations is a lot of work, especially when you don't have a huge team of people to help you.
And when they don't end up doing a lot of those things for you, and you end up having to do them yourselves. Like we ended up taking on a large portion of that work because. I'd say mainly because Blumhouse is very busy. They were doing Halloween. They were doing
50 other movies.
50 other movies. And, I think they spread themselves thin on the business affairs side. And so we had to pick up a lot of that slack, which was a struggle for us because it's not necessarily our strength. But it is now. We can wrap stuff up real quick now. We set it up perfectly to begin with, so we don't have to worry about any
trial by fire,
last minute, signatures or whatever,
Yeah, I get you, and I guess it all ties into what you said earlier, even about the filmmaking aspect as well. When these big companies are involved, it becomes harder and more convoluted because you've got so many departments and stuff.
It can be, yeah.
I mean, everyone's got to justify their job and put their 2 cents in, and that's why you see some of these big giant movies like Batman versus Superman or Suicide Squad or some of these ones that people love to say and pick apart online of like, well, why does it feel like this one moment and like this the next moment, and it's like a mismatch of
some executive stepped in and said, I think he ought to do this, and it's like, that's not what Batman or Superman does, but they're an executive.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, and that really can just totally derail anything, but movies especially, when you need a singular creative vision, it can be really tough to manage all of those expectations, and there's a lot of money on the line sometimes.
A lot of times it's great feedback, but
it could be great feedback, but for a totally different version.
So you need to really kind of just be aware of what you're hearing, and take it in stride, and then focus on your vision and try to execute that.
Another question I got asked probably 10 times was advice that you guys might give to, and I suppose not just in the US, but maybe across the world, to somebody who wants to get involved in filmmaking, but basically has nothing. They haven't gone to film school. Where do you go? Do you go to YouTube? Like, what would your advice be?
There are some great places on YouTube. There's great resources, behind the scenes footage, clips, directors that talk about things. We haven't done that yet, but we've talked about doing something like that. Kind of like
ourselves, you mean?
David Sandberg does some things like that.
There's a plethora of that's one blessing about living in this day and age and all the technology and the internet, is that there's so much out there at your fingertips for free. That you can learn from, you can try, you can experiment. You have your phone. Most people have at least a phone that they can go film on, and the phones are getting better and better. So it's like, whether you want to be an actor, an editor, a cameraman, a director, whatever it is, you can go out and you can make something, and you can do it by yourself or with your friends. And you have platforms that you can show it on, and it's amazing. Like, people, you think back and like guys like Steven Spielberg or George Lucas, or some of our people that we look to as icons and mentors, they had none of that. It cost a fortune to make movies and to make content back then.
And you had to illegally sneak onto the Universal lot like Spielberg did.
You could get away with that back then.
Yeah, you could back then.
But yeah, I would say the same advice we always give young aspiring filmmakers or actors is go make stuff. Whatever you want, go make it. Whether it's a short action scene, whether it's a comedy, whether it's a monologue, just go make stuff. Go experiment. If it's visual effects you're into, study up Andrew Kramer, Video Copilot. If it's sound that you're interested in, go record some sounds and play around on your computer. And it's anything.
If you're an actor without a director, direct yourself in something.
Yeah.
If you're a director with no actors, act in it.
Yeah, don't be afraid to cross-pollinate and wear many hats either, because
that's going to make you better.
Yeah, we've been forced to do that, to wear many hats, and it has made us better filmmakers, but better at a little bit of everything. I can talk to actors better now because we've acted in some of our own stuff, and we've also directed our own stuff, so we know what we're looking for.
We can talk to editors, and we can discuss very complex visual effects with VFX artists, because we've done and know those things. Even though we're really excited more about directing and producing, we know all those aspects. So
I'd say if anyone's really, truly hungry to learn and to be involved in film, is to really just go make stuff. And eventually something you make will get noticed, or eventually something you make will lead you to a contact that will give you a really cool opportunity. Or it'll get into a festival where you'll meet someone who will also, there's the possibilities are endless, but I think it all starts with a person's initiative to go create.
And I'd say with a plan, because we made the Gallows with a plan to get a worldwide theatrical release. And we were crazy and naive, and anyone would have laughed us out of the room at the time. but we believed it. So did our local hometown investors. They believed us, and we believed ourselves. And since, like our representation and legal, all the people we know now are like, man, had you known like how hard it really is, I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to do what you did, but you guys did it. And so have that plan in mind. Yeah. And then go make what you want to make.
Have a plan or a vision, a goal, something to strive towards. Yeah, absolutely.
And things will align.
And do you think something like, because I spoke last week with a British makeup artist, Paul Hyatt, who had done makeup for the likes of The Descent, Dog Soldiers, stuff like that. He's made 4 movies now as a director, and he co-wrote 4 of those, but he was kind of saying a similar thing to you guys in, you might have to wear many hats and try a lot of different things and network, and you just kind of go from there.
Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid to.
Don't be afraid to try any of that stuff. And don't be hung up on working for pay. I know people need to make money, and that's important, but when I was getting started, I was looking for whatever I could help on. And I would jump on it for free. I would help out. I would lift sandbags. I would whatever it is, and I still do that on other people's projects that I just want to see succeed. And I'll go do that, and I'm not charging for that stuff.
It's like don't sell yourself short, but also don't turn down a cool opportunity just because
to grow and learn.
Just because they can't pay you more than $100 or pay you anything at all. Like a lot of really great content and great things that have been made. Were made for nothing. They're made for a dream, this blood, sweat, and tears. That's what all that went into it, and so to be a part of something great, I think you just got to be willing to sacrifice just as anyone would, and then things will come around. Those sacrifices will pay off,
Yeah, because I had a question from one guy who he had said he's just a regular 9-to-5 guy, but he has this crazy dream about wanting to be a filmmaker, and how should he be using all his spare time, work for free? He wasn't really sure. He was like, I don't know what to do.
If he's got access, or anyone he knows in the area that is making stuff,
volunteer to help him.
Yeah, volunteer to help. Try to get involved. Try to meet people in the industry in his area, or even not in his area. Maybe join some Facebook groups or online social groups where he can meet some people. But I think it also a huge component of this business is connections and who you know, and the opportunities that come from that are just huge. You never know what. Like, we could get an email tomorrow from. This is not going to happen, but you never know. We get an email tomorrow from Jason Blum and be like, "Hey guys, I want you to direct this movie." It's like, great, yeah, let's do it. Like, that connection is there. We wouldn't have that opportunity if we didn't have that contact and that connection. So it's like, I think getting out there, meeting people, learning from them, and just proving yourself as a reliable and responsible person.
Yeah,
and they'll invite you back.
Yeah. They'll need you back.
Yeah.
For the paying gigs,
Last question then. If you could write or direct a sequel or a reboot to any existing franchise, what would it be and why?
Ooh, it's a good question. There's a couple that we really love, and that we love the talent involved, the acters. We're big fans of Mission Impossible. That's maybe one that might be on our list. Maybe James Bond. We do love the James Bond movies.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Something big and actiony would be pretty fun. I don't know. Those are a couple come to mind for me. Travis?
I'm a little bit older, so I keep having these visions of recreating like trailers to movies that we all wish, sequels that we all wish could come about. Like, I watched with my kids, I watched Explorers the other day. And, with River Phoenix and Ethan Hawke, and we watched The Neverending Story and some of these movies, and Labyrinth with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. And in my mind, I think, man, it'd be fun to just shoot a trailer along a cobblestone road leading up to someone dressed up like Jareth from The Labyrinth, and allude to a sequel being made and see how whimsical it could be, or explores.
It's almost like if you could go back in time to right after Labyrinth came out, 2 years later, and make a sequel the way you would make it. Like that's what you would do.
Yeah, there's some cool movies, I think, in my heart and mind that I loved as a kid that I kind of wouldn't mind bringing back some more of that.
Yeah, we are. We do love a lot of 80s movies. We are big into those. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, that seems to be a huge trend now as well.
It is.
Like even over here, like 80s, we see it a lot in like a lot of the clothes stores and stuff. Everything seems to be inspired by 80s right now.
Well, we have, even in the Gallows Act 2, there's a whole movie that our lead actress is just enamored with that kind of is a throwback to our love for some of the 80s films that we saw as kids. But yeah, it's good.
If you had to pick a horror franchise to get involved in, an existing horror franchise.
Let me think. We're huge fans of Quiet Place. Haven't seen the sequel, obviously, because it got postponed. But love the first one. For me personally, I was really inspired by Halloween, as I said, growing up and making films for the first time. The Halloween franchise was a big one for me. So I would love to. That'd be sweet to make something in that franchise for me.
I think it would be cool to do something in the same kind of cinematic universe as Unbreakable or Split.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Glass, but Unbreakable or Split. Those were my more favorite of those of the trilogy. I think something like that would be really, really cool. I think we actually have a couple things in mind that we are developing that we want to do that we're really passionate about that would fit into that kind of world.
Similar style.
Yeah, similar universe, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some of our faves.
Has there been anything that maybe you can't talk about it, but that you guys have been reached out to by companies or anything like that, pitched movies or asked to get involved on a project?
There's been a couple over the years that we've come close to that were pretty cool, and they really never even got made. So I don't mind telling you about them. One of them was a Stephen King novel.
A lesser known one, I think.
Yeah, it was a lesser known Stephen King novel from a Buick 8. It was about a car, kind of like a haunted car, similar to Christine, but a little different. It was like a car to another dimension or something. And the book was cool. I don't think they ended up.
I think the rights lapsed from the producer friends who had them at the point.
Yeah. And then another one we were really excited about was the movie adaptation of Are You Afraid of the Dark? From the 90s, the Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of that growing up, and they rebooted the show in a little miniseries that came out, but they were also going to do a movie alongside it, and there was news out there for a while. They'd even chosen a director, and I mean, I think it's still out there, but like, as far as we know, it's not happening.
No. What happened was, instead of making the film, they made the miniseries, and that was it. So
yeah, maybe it was like they were going to
changed it up.
They were going to reboot the show and the movie. Instead, they just decided to do the miniseries. I think maybe that's what happened.
Wow,
but anyway,
that would have been really cool.
They didn't do either. Yeah.
We were in the running for that one, and we actually shot a pitch video for it to pitch it ourselves.
A little scene,
and it was pretty awesome. I mean, considering we made it in like 24 hours and then we had our meeting, and
I think it's on our website, tremendum.com.
Yeah, you can watch it.
Really? I'll make sure to put a link in the descriptions for that.
Yeah, check it out. It's cool. It's got a couple of the monsters from the show, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
The executives, from what we heard, really loved our pitch.
Yeah.
And just
hopefully it'll happen someday. Hopefully the movie will get made someday.
Yeah, we really think we would have been great for it. Who knows? Hopefully it comes back around.
Okay, so I guess finally then, future projects and stuff. What are you guys working on now that you can talk about? Or
well, we've got Held that we directed, and we are in post-production on right now. That's starring a new person that we actually helped her develop the story. She's the writer. Her name is Jill Aubrey. And then also her co-star is Bart Johnson, in a different kind of role than you may know him for, but he played Coach Bolton in the High School Musical series. but he's a lot grittier in this story that we're telling. And then also we've got Behind You that we executive produced that's coming out this weekend, and we have several things in development that we're just gonna, as we get closer to bringing those things out, we'll post them or announce them in some way.
Mm-hmm. No details can be shared.
No details.
Yeah, I get that a lot. And I guess best place to find you guys is become an insider at tremendum.com.
Yeah, that's a great place to find us. The Insiders, just so you know, is we, especially for local people, but for anyone, we will often put blasts out to the Insiders looking for talent, extras,
locations, artwork, even.
Artwork's another great one. I mean, we really try to keep our movies very community involved and involved with our fans. So like, anything that we are looking for, resources that we need help finding, we try to involve those who follow us as much as we can. So that's a great way to stay in touch and receive like info about just things coming up, events, and stuff like that.
But you can also just go to our regular social media channels at Tremendum Pics on Instagram,
or at Chris and Travis is our director page as well.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure to link it underneath the descriptions of everything anyway.
Awesome, man.
Well, I appreciate the time, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Thanks for coming on.
Super fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Maybe we can do it again in happier times.
Yeah.
Hey, but hey, who knows? Maybe we won't have the opportunity in happier times. Maybe we're all going to be super busy on the next Avengers movie. Who knows?
Support First Class Horror on Patreon for as little as $1. Can't get enough of the horror? Carve yourself a deal from official merchandise only on Teespring. Join us on all social media at First Class Horror. We have such sights to show you.